One, sorry about that technical difficulty. I hope you guys are well. No, what happened was I was just talking about how, astrologically, Uranus is going retrograde. So we will be facing a lot of technical glitches, website glitches, audio might not be working, mic might not be working, stuff like that. And I realized that the 5 minutes I was talking, it just stopped. So again, I did the add everyone there, so I won't be able to use it again. So I hope you guys will be able to find me again. So I'll give it a couple of minutes until you guys find me in the new video. All right. Oops. And I think the audio should be better now. Oops. All right. Okay, the audio is good now. All right, perfect. All right, so as I was talking about the energies of this week, how with the whole Uranus in Taurus transit, you're going to expect a lot of, you may see, not expect, in fact, weeks building up to this as well. You might notice that plans are being moved around. There's certain, like, technical difficulties. You may have felt that your printer is not working in the office, or the systems are not operating properly, but it's Uranus going retrograde in Taurus. That's the reason why. So what does that mean for twin flames? For twin flames, retrogrades are very, very auspicious. So again, unexpected communication from your divine masculine, a message in 3D, a phone call, or an unexpected encounter bumping into each other. They can all happen. But it's a tricky period. So a word of caution is that don't make bold moves. Even if your divine masculine messages you, take it easy. Take it, show him that you have been the calm, still divine feminine. Don't go all bonkers on him and like call him out on, hey, how can you do this? Or don't doubt his intentions as well. Like, see it this way. If he is coming back to you after a very long time, right? If he's coming back to you, if he's talking to you again after a few months or a few years, it means he had been planning this moment for a while, which means a part of him knows how he was to you. That means a part of him has shifted. So you got to also show him that you're mirroring that. You're mirroring the consciousness levels, the shifts in the consciousness level that both of you have been experiencing. So no major moves, no major decisions. So if he messages you, take some time to reply. Don't go all like, hey, you left me in limbo and I hate you. Then you're just going to repeat the cycle again, looping. So exercise that caution, even though, because Uranus in Taurus, and Taurus is a force field, right? Those who have a Taurus in your sun, moon, or ascending will know that, that fire, you will always have that fire within you coming through. So exercise a bit of caution there. But having said that, everything happens in our twin flame journey for a reason. So anything happens, just honor it and do and just go with the flow. So you might also be noticing that with Saturn re-entering, working in Pisces again, it's all about, how much I love Saturn retrograde period, because I love Saturn a lot, because Saturn is about justice, is about fairness, it's about values, it's about boundaries, it's about reality checks. So that's what for twin flames, especially for those who are stabilizing your energy fields, for divine masculines or awakening, this is a period of accountability. And when it's in Pisces, the emotional integration falls in. You start to feel this energetic shift. And especially for twin flames, because we share a combined energy field, it kind of just, it comes in together, right? So in that way, you are no longer like stuck in a loop. Saturn retrograde releases you from the loop. All right, and like the eclipse seasons as well have kind of provided a huge reset. So moving forward, as we are going to enter the October season, and we've entered the Libra season as well, it's all going to be about wisdom, excitement, fun, and change and shifts. That's why the Mercury and Venus transits play a huge role as well. So the next couple of weeks, you're going to go through a new round of transformations. And Saturn retrograde it's going to continue to heighten, because it's only going to be in retrograde till like November. So it's going to be heightened. So you might be seeing a lot more changes coming in. So that's how the that's how the week is going to look like, with a lot of changes, a lot of resets, and a lot of shifts. And you will notice that there could be a lot of communication with your divine counterpart on a multidimensional level. So 3D possibilities at the highest the coming week as well. So with that, I'm going to delve right into Discourse. Again, the topic is like when the illusion breaks, the hidden ascension stage of the twin flame journey. I added a bit of suspense there, so you're probably like wondering, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? So, well, this is about all my teachings. Again, I've talked about the Disgust, I've talked about the pedestalization, I've talked about quite a number, especially the last couple of weeks. I've been doing videos on a daily basis. So today's discourse is about this hidden ascension stage that you guys are probably missing out on. So most people think ascension looks like bliss, angel numbers, and love light everywhere. But one of the most advanced stages of the twin flame path is not pretty at all. It's the moment when the illusion you have been living inside of you shatters. When you see the mask, when disgust replaces longing, you finally see divine masculine for who he is, his true colors, when the fantasy loses glow. This stage is not regression. It is the nervous system and the soul breaking free of the last code of attachment. So that's why today's discourse, we will look at why breaking the illusion is necessary and what it looks like in real time, and how to anchor your power as you pass through it. So I'm going to, very quickly look at if there are any comments. And all right, I'm going to have a look at, okay, I don't see. Okay, I'm just going to check. I don't know, the internet has been a bit off since morning, so I hope. Okay. Okay, perfect. Good evening, Jordan. Thank you. I realized the audio is much better. Good evening, Jordan. Thank you. Oh, perfect. Jordan saying, mine disgusts me greatly with his behavior. Oh, it's hard to trust my DM, so I've called mine on a few things this week. Perfect. All right, so I think so far we are good, but I hope we won't experience any more technical difficulties. Again, like I said, Uranus in Taurus. All right, as I was talking, the pedestal. So first I wanted to talk about the pedestal and the mask, right? At the start of the journey as divine feminines, we often project our highest codes onto our divine masculine, right? We see our divine masculine's potential, we see soul mission, we see his higher self. And this projection is actually part of the, the cosmic handshake, that wakes both you and your divine masculine up. But while we are projecting upward, And our divine masculine is wearing a mask, which is status, charm, detachment, even cruelty to protect himself from intimacy. This is what creates what we call the false hierarchy. We feel too small and our divine masculine appears large, the pedestalization. So the illusion is that he's above me, I need to become worthy. And the truth is, we are already sovereign. Our divine masculine is just hiding behind a mask. So that's when the trigger moment takes place, that seeing the mask, right? This usually happens in an instant. A conversation, an event, or even passing a location can act as a portal. Suddenly the nervous system realizes this isn't love. This is power imbalance. This isn't intimacy. It's a projection. And that emotional signature of this moment is not gentle sadness, but shock, disgust, anger. That's the soul's immune system expelling the fantasy. So what is going on is that it could be a location trigger. You could be passing by your divine masculine's old house. Or you could be passing by a place you used to go on dates. Or you could be passing by a place where you used to meet. And it could trigger that, right? So that's why you got to see disgust as a sign of ascension. Spiritual culture often tells people, don't be angry, stay high vibe. In reality, that whole stay high vibe, don't be angry, it is utter BS. Why do monks go to the mountains? Because they can scream. Every monk out there, if you ask them about anger, they will be like, release the anger. Right? So in reality, disgust and sacred anger are higher than self-betrayal and self-denial. They mean you've stopped gaslighting yourself and you're living the highest form of authenticity, right? So at the biological level, disgust is a boundary setting reflex. At the spiritual level, it's the coding of sovereignty, reinstalling itself. And this is the end of pedestalization. So each time you feel the surge of I'm done, another piece of your life force is coming back to you. And this is why people often feel both tired and empowered during this phase. The body is recalibrating as energy returns. So your dreams, your creativity, your career start to shift because the energy you used to pour into decoding your divine masculine is now available to you. So that's when there's energy retrieval and the collapse of the old story. And this is when you anchor the new frequency. All right. This is when, so this is how you can move through this stage consciously. You acknowledge, say it out loud. I see the mask, I release the fantasy, I keep my power. And then you can ground, hand on your heart. It's like, really, any way you want to do it, right? Like hand on your heart, breathe, and this signals our nervous system that we are safe. And then replace each time old memory pops up, replace it with the truth about you. I am sovereign, I'm powerful, I'm no longer shrinking. And then document it, keep a journal, record your insights. This builds a new narrative and helps your brain wire to your new identity. So that's why the breaking of illusion is not the end of your love story. It's the end of false dynamics. It's us divine feminines stepping fully into our own field from this space. Any future interaction, whether it's reunion or permanent release, happens from equality, not projection. And this is why so many people experience deep disgust. So many of us experience deep disgust right before our biggest leap in power. It's not collapse, it's completion. So that's why if you are in this stage, you're not crazy, you're not in low vibration, you're not failing the journey, you're graduating from the stage of projection into the stage of sovereignty, the building, the job, the clubbing that your DM may be doing, the status symbol that he's above everyone, they're always just props. The soul lesson is never about those props. It's about us reclaiming our own power. That's why disgust is a signal that you're done shrinking, and from there you don't just hope for union, you become the union, right? And that's what makes it beautiful. And as we delve deeper, we talked about what happens when the projection collapses, when disgust replaces longing, when the pedestal crumbles. When you realize, even if he comes back, you don't want him, that is a huge signal, isn't it? That is a huge signal. That's why disgust isn't just a trauma response. It's a gateway to divine power. So let's unpack why, So most of us divine feminines may think, if I feel disgusted by my divine masculine, I must be bitter, unhealed, or not spiritual enough. Well, if that's how you're seeing it, feeling it, then you're probably stuck in 3D. Because disgust isn't rejection. Disgust is discernment. And it's your soul saying, this version of him, the egoic one, the cruel one, the one who gaslit, ghosted, judged, is no longer permitted in my field. And this is not giving up. This is taking your crown back from the version of him that never knew how to honor it. So, let's talk about our body as divine feminines. When we love our divine masculine, we love it with every cell, every chakra, every layer of our emotional field. So when our divine masculine shrinks us, judges us, looks down on us like we are a child, we don't just remember, we carry it, that insult, like looking at you, judging you, like, why is she so needy? Why is she always hovering around me? Why is she so backboneless? That's why disgust is such a full body response. It's our womb, our nervous system, our auric field saying, I will no longer hold what disrespects me. And here's when it really gets real. Very often, our divine masculine may be clinging to status, logic, rationality, or material identity, while as the divine feminine, we are already doing the inner work. And because he hasn't accessed that depth in himself, he mistakes our soul power for weakness. He mistakes our empathy for immaturity. He mistakes our freedom for failure. He thinks he's doing better. He has the job, he's got the apartment, he's got the package, he's got the girls, he's got the guy friends, the toxic ones. But as the divine feminine, we are the one doing the real work, right? The clearing, the shadow integration, the soul service, the legacy anchoring. So when our divine masculine walks away or treats us as less than, and then quits his job, or crumbles emotionally, or spiritually collapses months later, it's proof that our disgust isn't cruelty. It is clairvoyance, right? So you know the line. Even if I come back, I don't want him. That doesn't mean you hate him. It means you finally love yourself more than the fantasy of the twin flame journey. It means you're no longer willing to betray your truth to be understood. You no longer desire the version of your divine masculine that thought your value needed to be earned. You want truth, not potential. You see where I'm going with this, right? Respect, not rescue. Equality, not elevation. And if he can't meet you there, you're not waiting, all right? So here's how to stabilize in this frequency field. Speak it out loud. The version of my divine masculine who hurt me longer has access to me. Move the energy, walk, shake, dance, clear the nervous system. Let the disgust complete its cycle. Choose neutrality. If you don't love him or hate him, you're free. Sit in the neutral. I always talk about sacred neutrality, right? Close the pedestal part. Say, I collapse the pedestal. I call back my divine feminine essence. So every time you do this, another piece of your power returns to your field. And this is not healing, this is reconstruction. That's why this stage, the discuss stage, is sacred. It is often the final breaking point before we, as the divine feminine, become the empowered divine feminine. We don't want our divine masculine's attention anymore. We don't crave his validation. We just want to be our best. And that is the turning point, because only when we no longer need our divine masculine to choose us can we finally choose ourselves fully. And from that space, you no longer orbit him. Our divine masculine orbits us. This is hard. This is the raw, it's one of the most raw and most empowering stages of the journey. And if you're here right now, you've already broken that illusion. And the real ascension is like beginning, right? So now we're going to talk about what happens after. What happens after you feel disgusted, after the rage, after you say, even if he comes back, I don't want him. This is the part no one really teaches, because it's quieter, less dramatic, but far more important. So let's talk about what it means to move from illusion to neutrality, and why this stage is your gateway to true energetic mastery. You will know you have entered this next stage when you no longer check your divine masculine social media. You no longer flinch when someone says his name. You no longer feel that collapse in your chest when you remember the good times or the bad times. It's not numbness, it's clarity. Our nervous system is no longer stuck in threat response. The fight, flight that kept us looping, craving contact, reacting to silence, hoping for a message, it's gone. And in that absence, you start to feel yourself again. Our breath deepens, our focus returns, our soul work expands. This is neutrality, and it's not emptiness, it's capacity. And when we stop feeding energy into the illusion, what happens? Our auric field literally reorganizes. We think clearer, we create more, we start to enjoy our mornings again. We don't wake up with panic. Who know what is happening to my life? You don't go to bed feeling sad. Why? Because your soul is no longer leaking energy towards the false version of your divine masculine, the version who couldn't see you, the version who looked down on you, who made you feel like you had to prove your worth. That unawakened divine masculine, the one that says words like I'm not interested, the one who makes you feel like you're not good enough, the one who rejects you, blocks you, treats you with cruelty, even when you are, even when you are showing him all the love in the world. You see what I mean, right? Often, in a 3D world, you show kindness to someone, chances are they will be kind back to you, right? At least on a superficial level. So when our divine masculine, when we devote everything to him, and he just treats us like we are worth nothing, we're actually leaking energy. So when we go above that, beyond that, that timeline closes, and you didn't close it with bitterness, you closed it with truth. So disgust is the wake up, but discernment is the anchor. You begin to ask deeper questions. Do I really want the version of him I once begged for? Do I want someone who thought my power was a threat instead of a gift? Do I want to reopen the door to someone who collapsed when I expanded? And for the first time, when you get to this stage, the answer will be no. Not because you hate your divine masculine, not because we are angry, not because we're simply, going through what we are going through, but because we've simply outgrown the frequency that used to attract us, and that is spiritual maturity. This is when we stop wanting him to understand. This is a huge turning point. We no longer need our divine masculine to get it. We no longer fantasize about the day he comes back and admits everything. We no longer write imaginary conversations in our head, because we finally realize our knowing was always enough. Even if he never gets it, you got it. You survived it. You alchemized it. You became you became more powerful because of it. That is union with your own field. So our divine masculine, the divine masculine we fell in love with, is always real. But often when we are in love, when we were in love, we were in love with his potential, his higher self, his future evolution, his soul truth that he himself hadn't yet embodied. And now you stop doing that. You stop collapsing for the future version of him. You stop bargaining with the cosmos for his healing. You stop hoping that if you stay soft enough, patient enough, good enough, you'll finally rise. You stop carrying his mission and you come home to your own. So this is when things get cosmic. In neutrality, you stop pulling, you start pushing, you just radiate. And from this state, he may return, but you do not collapse. He may contact you, but you do not flinch. He may never return, and you're still whole. And this is the truest. This is the true feminine power. It's not in convincing, it's not in chasing, it's not even in rejecting. It is in non-attachment to the illusion. That's why if you've reached this stage where disgust has given away to discernment and longing has given away to neutrality, then you know you're not over it, you're above it. You are now anchored in a field where divine union doesn't come from force, it comes from frequency. And when you are seated in that frequency, you no longer ask, when will he come back? You ask, who am I now becoming that I've stopped waiting? That's the real portal. That's the real ascension. And that's the moment you finally stop being the seeker and become one with the universe itself. So that's why, I wanted to talk about what if he comes back after you've broken the illusion, right? Like, I want to go deeper into that. And we are addressing the question that quietly lingers in every one of your minds, every one of your awakened divine feminine minds. What if he comes back after I've broken the illusion? What do you do when he reappears? What do we do when he reappears, right? After the disgust, after the rage, after you finally anchored into neutrality, you're no longer chasing, you're no longer hoping, you're no longer building shrines to potential. So now what? So let's break this down. I've done videos about this, mini videos. I've talked about this stage, of course, right? In some of my other videos. So the return isn't always romantic. So let's be real, when our divine masculine actually comes back, and he does come back. He absolutely comes back. Usually after the field has shifted, when you have stopped projecting, when you have stopped collapsing. But here's the catch. The return isn't always reunion. Sometimes our divine masculine may come back for clarity. Sometimes for ego soothing. Sometimes he might not even know. Sometimes because our divine masculine feels our detachment and wants the hit of our light again. So you must discern. Is he returning from his soul or from his fear of losing access to mind? So don't reattach to the fantasy. When he returns, whether it's a text, a conversation, or a full-blown reconnection, there will be a moment, a flash of the old desire, the pull to go back. The maybe this time illusion. Pause, breathe, remember who you are now. Do not reattach to the fantasy you've already graduated from. You didn't collapse yourself to climb out of that illusion just to jump back into it again, right? And ask yourself, is the version of me who would say yes to him still alive? If not, bless it. Don't try to bring it back, alright? And you have to also acknowledge this. You're not the same women who wanted him before. You're not someone who's didn't know yet how sacred your field was. You still needed his attention to feel seen. You're not that person anymore. You still thought his validation meant union. No. But now you've outgrown the chase. You've reclaimed your power. You're operating from energetic coherence, not trauma bonding. So if he returns and you feel nothing, that's not numbness, that's integration. So you don't decide what to do based on how emotional you feel. You decide based on what resonates with your current feel. If he returns and you feel a soul level yes, and his actions are matching it, then explore it with freedom, with sovereignty. But if he returns and it feels off, egoic, performative, hollow, you're allowed to say thank you, but the version of me who wanted this no longer lives there. You're not cruel for walking away. You're actually clear, It's all about being prepared, right? So one of the biggest traps after Ascension is the energetic hook. Or divine masculine may say something sweet. You would feel like an old thread twitch. Suddenly you're wondering again, this is not love. This is the ghost of the illusion trying to sneak in through the back door. If his presence destabilizes your clarity, pause. That's your soul saying this frequency no longer belongs in the field. So let's not reopen the portal. If you do choose to engage, try this. Don't make it about the past. You're not looking for apology to us. Don't future trip. You're not planning weddings in your head either. Stay in the now. That's why I always tell my clients, go with the flow. Every time a client messages me, hey, my DM, message me after a few years, message me after a few months, message me after a decade, I'll say, play it cool, guys. Go with the flow. So stay in the now. Observe, listen, respond, but do not collapse. Speak from the version of you that emerged after the disgust, after the neutrality. Because at this stage, you know how to hold frequency. You know when the energy is real and when it's just nostalgia in disguise. You are able to discern, differentiate between that both. So what happens if it comes back after the illusion is broken? Simple. You choose. Not from longing. Not from the past. Not from I waited for this moment forever. You choose from truth, from power, from sovereignty, and maybe, just maybe, he has grown. Maybe he has arrived as the man who can now meet the version of you that no longer begs to be seen. But even if he hasn't, you don't need him to come back because you already did. You came back to yourself, and that is the real reunion. So, if you've made it this far, and if you have not zoned out, you've likely passed through disgust, detachment, and maybe even neutrality. But the question is, what does true union actually look like once both you and your divine masculine have broken the illusion? Because here's the truth. Real twin flame union doesn't look like anything like what you've used to want. And let's go deep, with that. The union is not the day he comes back with flowers. It's not a wedding fantasy. It's not the perfect conversation under the stars. It's you and him. It's you and him who have collapsed every illusion about yourselves, about love, and about each other, and finally standing before one another in full energetic clarity. No projection, no pedestals, no power games, just truth. Totally, the mask is gone in both of you. And by the time true union is possible, both of you have shattered the internal illusion. You no longer see him as the savior, the one who completes you, or the missing piece. You no longer see yourself the way you see yourself. And your divine masculine no longer sees you as a threat, a stalker, a fantasy, or someone to control or run from. You've both faced yourself. You've sat with shame, anger, grief, powerlessness. You've stopped trying to fix each other. Not because you've finally, surrendered, but because you finally learned how to hold your own frequency. And that's what allows true union to begin. Not love, clarity. That's why I always say my sessions are meant to give you clarity, not to confuse you further. That's why in real union, there's no more chasing, no more testing, no more needing to be rescued or admired. There's closeness without collapse. There's attraction without addiction. There's love without needing to control the outcome. You don't need your divine masculine to behave a certain way to feel safe anymore. You've built your own safety, and from that place, the relationship becomes play, not survival. True union is co-regulated frequency, not a fairy tale. That's why I keep talking about normalizing stable union. That means you can disagree and still stay connected. You can still have fights in the supermarket about whether you want red onions or white onions. Or you can choose the one in the middle. Purple onions, or the other one. What is the other one? Yeah, brown onions. Or you can go silent and still feel the bond. You can have triggers, but now you don't run, you repair. The love no longer needs to be dramatic. It becomes stable, still powerful, like a flame that doesn't flicker but burns steadily in the background of your lives. This is intensity. This is not just intensity, it's intensity that's stable. This is anchoring. Once illusion is gone, our relationship no longer exists for emotional highs. It exists for soul mission. We come together not because we miss each other. No, that was not why my divine masculine and I came back together, but because our fields activate something sacred. Because we are co-carriers of a frequency that wants to be seeded into the world through our work, through our creations, through our conversations, our shared presence. That's why we have to remember we are not just lovers, right? We are anchors for new consciousness, new consciousness. This is when divine union becomes planetary service. So here's the final truth. You no longer need your divine masculine to show up, but if he does, you can receive him fully without collapse, panic, attachment. And if he doesn't, you don't chase, you don't shrink, you don't make up stories to cope, because you're already in inner union. And that inner union becomes the field that calls for only those who can meet you in truth. Whether that's him or someone else aligned with your highest frequency, you will know, because your body won't tense, your heart won't beg, your soul won't fantasize. It will say, yes, I see you clearly, and this time I see me too. That's why, to answer the question, what does union look like after the illusion is gone? It looks like both you and your divine masculine don't need to run anymore. For starters, no longer pretend. It looks like presence over perfection, right? Mission over fantasy, field over performance. It looks like love, real love. Finally, you can agree to disagree. Finally, free of projection. And whether that's with your divine masculine or within your own divine self, you're already in it, because illusion doesn't break to destroy the journey. It breaks so you can finally begin it. So that's why, I'm going to wrap up the discourse. The final part. The final part is through the illusion breaking phase of the twin flame path. This one is for the most advanced stage. The moment when you have stabilized your field, you're not waiting, you're not angry, you're not obsessed. And usually this is when our divine masculine returns. At least that's how it did, in my case and for all my other clients as well. But here's the twist. So this is when, the illusion doesn't come back, even when your divine masculine does. So what do you do when your divine masculine shows up, but you don't feel the old spark, the fantasy, the ache? You feel clear, you feel strong, you feel neutral. This is where it gets real. So let's say it. Our divine masculine's return is not the price, it's a checkpoint, because when he's returning to, what he's returning to isn't you. He's returning to the field that you've built since he left. Our wholeness, our glow, our stability. See, that's the most important thing, our stability. Just think about it, when we were like all over him, when we were like love bombing him, or, treating him like he's the king of the universe. What were we doing? We were so unstable, right? So the real question is, does his energy now match the field you've created? Or is he simply trying to re-enter it out of comfort, guilt, or confusion? So these are key questions that you got to ask yourself. But this time, when you hear your voice, when you hear his voice, and your voice too, of course, you don't shrink. You don't second guess your words. You don't rush to impress. You don't try to spiritually perform your value, because you no longer see him as your emotional authority. You're not trying to prove your worth, you're observing his. And when the roles shift like that, you become the mirror, not the seeker, the mirror, all right? So this is a truth most divine feminines resist admitting, but it's deeply liberating when it lands. I don't want him anymore, not because I'm angry, but because I've outgrown the version of him I once loved. So you're not rejecting him, you're not punishing him, you're simply no longer attracted to the dynamic that used to validate your wounds. Now you crave resonance, not recognition. Now you want truth, not titles. Now you want peace, not potential. And if he can't meet that, you can still love him and walk away. So if you choose to engage, remember this. All right? Don't regress. You don't owe him emotional labor or explanations for your evolution. Don't overfunction. Let your divine masculine carry part of the energetic weight this time. Speak from your feel, not your fear. Respond with grounded presence, not inner collapse. Say things like, I hear you. I'm not in the same place I was. I honor what we shared, but I honor who I've become more. That's not cold. That's energetic integrity. So in this stage, you may feel the soul connection, but your body no longer obeys the old pattern. You don't want to run into his arms. You don't want to relive the fantasy. You don't want to beg for another moment. You don't want to re-enter the maze. You might feel love, but not desire. Recognition, but not... you're not going to fall anymore. This is the highest test of field resonance, field sovereignty. Can I hold this love without making it a contract, making it an obligation? So that's why I want to wrap it up, right? Union is not proven by our divine masculine's return. It's proven by our ability to stay anchored no matter what our divine masculine does, right? If he returns and you stay calm, that's union. If he returns and you don't chase, that's union. If he returns and you say no without guilt, that's union. You didn't spend all this time healing to re-enter a collapsed version of love. You came this far to never lose yourself again. So what happens when he comes back, but the illusion doesn't? You get to see your evolution in real time. It's like waking up and finally seeing. You realize that version of you who longed for him was real, but she's no longer leading the journey. The you who stands here now is different, not bitter, not numb, just clear. And this is the true end of the waiting loop and the true beginning of the love you came here to live, with him or without him, but always, always with yourself. So this wraps up my discourse, right? And I'm going to open the floor to questions. I just introduced a couple of new healings, so do look at the description or the pinned comment for YouTube viewers, because again, there's only a limit for the description. So I just, created a new healing, the mirror break radiance key activation, collapsing is illusion and restoring your divine feminine magnetism healing. I highly, highly recommend that. Do read about the healing. And I would also recommend the Emerald Heart and Sapphire Mind synchronization, the Heart Flame Resurrection, Sacred Mirror Alchemy, Sacred Anger Transmutation and Power Retrieval, Third Energy Field Expansion, Third Energy Activation. There are two third energy activation sessions. One is for field expansion and one is the activation. So all these healings are conducted over video call. It's about 40 minutes, so we can always set a time. And then the bigger healings it takes about a couple of weeks, but I'll meet you, if it takes 6 weeks, I'll catch up with you every 2 weeks to give you an update. So some healings takes more time, so some may be conducted remotely, but most of my healings are conducted over video call. So do check them out. And of course, if you guys want to work one-on-one with me, you can book the first time twin flame psychic guidance consultation. And I mean, for those who want a more general reading, you can book the Ask Me Any Question You Want Agashik Records reading as well. All right, with that, I'm going to see. I see I've got more requests coming in. I'm going to look at the comments. All right. Perfect. So Alex says, it's almost like they become the version you don't want or that isn't true, like the character is. But absolutely, that's what exactly happens. The potential that you saw, that's what our divine masculine eventually becomes. So Becca is saying, last time mine came back not for reunion but was for something, for growth and trust in the clan. That's why nothing is like coincidence. Everything happens for a reason. So that's why testing it is pretty good in that way, meaning testing why he comes back. So that's why the third part of my discourse focused on that, the third and fourth parts. So Tracy is saying, grown so much in this 20-year. Absolutely, we keep growing. Even after union, we keep growing. It's infinite growth and evolution. That's what the twin flame journey is about. It's eternal, right? Oh, love this, but my lunch break is over. No worries, Tracy, you can watch it later. Becca is saying, last time it was about missing. Love that reminder. Glad to have shifted from that. Becca says, I love this talk. Alex says, spoke with someone last night. A mutual friend put her in touch with me, hoping I could help with diet. The conversation evolved. Some of the things she said sounded just like me a year ago. Had a neon sign showing me how much I've grown, and I was so grateful for that, and I'm amazed with myself, hoping it helped her. Chatting to you. Absolutely it does. So Becca is saying, yes, I can just live my life in my highest frequency. And Alex says, I definitely ran across you and I needed to divine guidance. Yes, all gratitude to God, always, guys, always. The universe, God is amazing. When you're looking for answers, that's why the voice of God, the real voice of God, is silence. It's the mind that is noisy. All right, so I'm going to open the floor to questions, and then I'm going to delve right into channeling. And then, all right, let me see the channeling list. So I have Rachel, Jordan, Areen, Kayla, Goodney, Tracy, and let me see. Oops. And Alex. Perfect. All right, I'm going to take a quick toilet break. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment and I'll be back in a minute. All right. All right, I am back and I'm going to. See, I forgot my phone. Let me get that. All right, all righty, all righty, all right. So I'm going to start with. Rachel. All right, let me look at Rachel's question. All right, energies between Carrie and I will you both communicate soon, and would you have to be the one to initiate contact? Thank you. He will reach out. Something deep within you is probably kind of already feeling that communication is very near, very close. And this time round, it's not going to be about looping. It's not going to be about, he's not going to start with an apology. He's going to start with recognition. So, of course, this time round, the way you're going to respond is also going to be different. So, what I'm feeling is energetically, all right, guys, am I here? Or let me just check if I froze.